Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody inside and outside the ballpark to the Noved Notes podcast, where we talk to many different types of creators and communities. I'm your host, NovedPlayer, and welcome to episode 84 of the podcast. Today, as it is the middle of Spooky Month, and actually is right in the middle of Squad Forever Fest, we have an amazing world creator who is very, very amazing when it comes to the spooky side of VRChat game creations. We have ItsCripsy. Cripsy, welcome to the podcast. Hope you're doing well.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you on. Well, for the general listening audience, Cripsy, go ahead and introduce yourself and who exactly is ItsCripsy.
So, hello everyone. My name is ItsCripsy, and I'm a VRChat horror world creator that focuses on creating immersive, story-based horror worlds for VRChat. That's pretty much all I can say about me. That's all I do in VRChat. But I create horror maps. Always have been a fan of horror, and that's me.
Fair. No, it's awesome, man. So I guess one of the very first questions. So what kind of got you started in VRChat in the first place?
Ooh, do you mean like when I start, like what got me started VRChat, or like the creation part? Like
the VRChat in general.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so VRChat, it was very interesting. I started very late compared to like other creators. I started in 2020 during the COVID pandemic, because social life outside was a bit, and I don't know. I felt like I wanted to do something. And I remembered that I had a VR headset because I liked to play Beat Saber back then. And for some reason, I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this VRChat game a try and see what it is. Fun fact is, I didn't speak any English back then. I didn't understand a single word people were saying. So it was very overwhelming at first. And I played it for like a few hours and I dropped it for a few months, actually. And then at some point, I got back into it because I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it another try. But that was pretty much like what got me started, and I met like a bunch of people like within the first few weeks of playing VRChat, and then since then I like became friends with a lot of people, and I'm still friends with a lot of them, and that's how it all started for me. Like I could never stop playing at this point. I got addicted to it pretty much, which was really nice.
No, fair. I actually didn't know that English wasn't your first language. You could have fooled me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No. So, out of curiosity, like, what's your native language, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm German. I'm from Germany, and like I said, my English was awful. I didn't understand much. I didn't speak anything at all. I was a mute at the beginning, and I did not know how to communicate with people. It was basically just by like waving hands and stuff. But that was it. That's all I could do. And then I learned actually from my friends that like tried to teach me a little bit, and now I'm here, and that's how far I got by just speaking to people in VRChat. That's something very awesome. Incredible.
Yeah, no, that I mean, you're speaking more fluently than most English speakers. To be fair,
I appreciate that.
English can be rough sometimes, even for the English
speakers.
Yeah. No, that's what's up. But yeah, so starting during the pandemic, obviously was a huge boom to VRChat. So it definitely brought in a lot of creative minds. So out of curiosity, what kind of made you want to create things inside of VRChat?
So at first I wasn't like interested in like this creation stuff at all. I had no knowledge about anything. I was like, okay, I just like exploring worlds and hang out with friends. But a friend of mine named Colorful back then decided to make his own home world, and he showed me this world, and it was like, I made this all in Unity myself. And I got curious. I wanted to see like if I can make something like that myself, like a home world, a world to like hang out with friends in. And I started working on a project. I opened up Unity and installed everything. And back then, everything was a bit more complicated and complex, and like it wasn't as easy as it is nowadays. And I started working on a project, and it was awful. I instantly deleted it after a few months, but it was the beginning of me like trying to like be a bit creative and like get my creative mind to work. And it was just a like small little room at first. And it had nothing to do with horror as well. Like I was completely away from like the idea of making something spooky in VRChat, because I didn't really know that was a thing at that point yet. Like I knew hangout worlds back then, like let's say Midnight Rooftop or something like that. But like game worlds and all that stuff, I wasn't aware of that, and that came a little bit later at that point. But yeah, that's pretty much how it started. It was just me being interested in it, or like see what my friends did. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna give it a try too. And here I am, like making worlds now.
No, absolutely. Well, that's what's up, and that's actually very interesting. Because obviously, a lot of creators, when it comes to game creators, definitely have, or experienced creators, I should say, definitely have all different paths of life when it comes to that. So I guess in your sense, with you doing horror, are you like a big fan of horror? Like, was there any,
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that's an obvious question here, but, because you mentioned, starting from, making kind of a hangout world because of, those worlds that you saw back in that day. So what kind of drove you to go into horror creation when it comes to like VR chat?
Well, I remember like back then when I started becoming like a bit creative, my friends were like, "Hey, you like horror games, right?" Like I was obsessed with playing horror games, all kinds of games, Alien Isolation, Outlast, and all of that stuff. Like I'm a big nerd when it comes to that kind of stuff. Like even watching horror movies, I'm always fascinated by like all of that stuff. And I remember my friend told me like, "Hey, why do you not like try like create your own like horror world?" And I was actually amazed by the idea. Like I never thought about it first, and then I did, and I was like, actually, I could give it a try and see how far I come. Um, Funniest thing is, I had like no knowledge about like scripting anything. Like my worlds that I made, like that one world that I made at that point was pretty much empty when it comes to like scripts. There was nothing you can interact with. It was just a room. So that was like a whole different thing as well. Like on top of the stuff that I'm still learning. But I actually picked up on that idea and I started working on my first ever horror map, which never came out. The first one I ever worked on was like some kind of Dead Space related map. And I remember at that point, VRChat introduced Udon. Like that was like right at the time when they wanted to switch to Udon, and they like said like we're gonna like stop the SDK2 stuff and not be able to like use it anymore. And at this point, I was like slightly into it already. I was like, okay, I kind of figure out how it could work. And then they came out with like the Udon stuff. I was like, oh no, what am I gonna do now? This is even like more on top of all the stuff that I'm already learning. And I freaked out. And luckily, a few months later, I don't know if it was someone I saw on Twitter like talk about a tool that you can use to have like the same kind of like system, like way it works. But with Udon, and it was called Cyan Trigger by Cyan Laser. You're probably aware of that person and the tool. And that one actually helped me a lot with creating my first world. But due to my old world, the first one I started, like the first horror map I started working on, it was still SDK2, and I don't remember there being like some kind of tool to like migrate it to Udon already. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna start something new from scratch. And that's when I came up with a whole new idea, like a whole different horror map, which was called Wreck. Like it was like based off Outlast and the movie's Grave Encounters, where you have like a camcorder in your hand and go through like some kind of mental asylum. And I worked on that for like a long time actually, and I learned more stuff over time. And at some point, it got to the point where it was too big. There was too much in our world. The map was massive. It had like 270 rooms already, and it was just the first floor. And there was supposed to be like 4 floors at the end. It was massive. And I sadly started to have some kind of burnout because I really wanted to make something for like Halloween, for like the Halloween time. And I had like a year still until that time was coming, but I was like, I'm never going to make that in time. And that's when my friend came up to me. Like always, they always came up with ideas, which is kind of funny if you think about it. And they were like, hey, how about we two work on worlds together, like one world. We're going to make it a thing that we're going to work on this world for 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, we're going to finish it. Like no matter how far we are in the project, we're just going to end it right where it is. And we just upload it. So you have something at least to upload. And I liked that. I was like, you know what? It's a challenge. It could be something small. And yeah, we started working on it, and my friend created like a mall kind of like looking place, and I created a parking lot. And for the people that played the Smile Room, they might see where this is going. Like after 2 weeks, my friend was like, "All right, 2 weeks is over. Like, what are we gonna do now? Like, we're gonna stop it and upload it." And I was like, "I'm not ready yet. I think this map has potential." And I really liked like the way it was going, like from the idea that we had. And I was like, "I want to continue working on it." And he was saying to me like, "Okay, you can have the project. I don't want to have anything to do with it anymore. Like, it's your thing now. I did my part, and you just do your thing now and see how it goes." And I promised him I would take his name out of the project. There will be posters somewhere. Sometimes you will see them maybe with his name still on it, because at the beginning we announced it as a like 2-person project. But yeah, at some point then I switched over to just me. And that's how the Smile Room got created. Like after 7 months instead of 2, I actually finished working on that map and I uploaded it for Spookality. And yeah, that's how everything like really started for me. Just insane. Yeah.
No, that's crazy. It's that's a lot of lore right there. So
I know. I'm sorry.
No. Don't apologize. No, we love lore around here. Because at the end of the day, right? While everyone, or not everybody, but like a good chunk of VRChat knows about these worlds, they don't know the stories behind the creations of these worlds, and that's something we love to cover here. Especially ones that, because obviously with VR and VRChat being its own niche, horror inside VRChat is it's a niche inside of a niche, so
Yeah,
it's always cool to learn these things. So I guess kind of to go a little bit more in depth with that, because obviously, you and this other person had worked on this world, for such a short amount of time. So I guess, was there like an inspiration when it came to designing the world, or was there anything specific that kind of brought about the idea of creating the world?
So at first, we were thinking about like making it no story map. Like it was just supposed to be like you go through areas, you do things, explore a little bit, and that's pretty much it. There's gonna be a chase somewhere. It had no lore at all. Like there was nothing behind it. We basically created our areas based off pictures we found on Google, like as a reference. Because I'm very, when it comes to like finding references or like creating that in my head. Back then, at least, I was very limited. I didn't really know what I want to do and stuff. So we just looked at pictures. That's how the Smile Room actually got created. I saw a video on YouTube one day of some urban explorers finding the actual Smile Room IRL in like some kind of like hospital. I was like, that looks cool. I really want that in the map. And yeah, I just recreated it based from what I saw. And that's how all of that came together. But yeah, like the story and stuff, at some point I just got in, like, I don't know, I just how do we say it, improvised pretty much, like the entire story. That's why chapter 1 of the Smile Room is a bit chaotic in some parts. Like a lot of people say like it doesn't really have like a nice like ending, or like it doesn't feel like there's much that gets explained. That's where chapter 2 will come in and like try to like answer all those open questions. But yeah, like there was like no proper like way of doing this map. It was all pretty much improvised back then. Especially after my friend dropped out of the project, I was completely on my own and I could do whatever I want. And I just wanted to be creative and like see how far I can take it. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
No, fair. And I mean, you've taken it and ran with it. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I guarantee the VRChat community as a whole thanks you for, going so far with what you're doing. Because Smile Room has became, a VRChat staple when it comes to VRChat horror. I mean, it's, you can't hear about VRChat horror and not hear about Smile Room. Because that's something I always ask people, with Project HorrorCon right around the corner, I always ask people, I'm like, when you think of, horror inside of VRChat, what do you think of? And within the top 3 to 5 answers, per person, it's always Smile Room. Always Smile Room.
Oh, that's amazing.
So it's always good to hear, about these things, because it gives ideas for people to kind of learn what exactly is in the platform, right?
Hmm.
Even before, Smile Room, there was staples to VRChat Horror. There was like official Say on maps. There was Scary Maze. There was, the list goes on and on. Um,
Yeah.
So, and obviously with it being, in the 2020s, it is one of the more modernized VRChat Horror maps. But it still holds a lot of, placement when it comes to that, which is really cool.
Hmm.
And I mean, you had mentioned it already, but you're working on the sequel, which I know a lot of people have been hyped
Yes.
for.
Oh God, yeah.
So I guess before we go too far into the sequel side of things, though, because obviously with VRChat changing, even again, with the deprecation of like SDK2 worlds and everything, um, and features like Cyan Laser, and stuff like that. Has there been any major things when it comes like your worlds in particular, or like any of the learning processes? Like obviously it's more, what's the word? It's more like Udon based nowadays, than what it was. So I
Yeah.
guess, from your personal experience as a world creator, did you have any issues? Like, what were some like the major issues going from like, from the SDK to the Udon side? Like you kind of mentioned it briefly, but I kind of want to go a little bit more in depth. Like, what are some of the struggles you've had like when creating the worlds?
So, when I worked on Smile Room, it was already like SDK free or like Udon, and I already used Cyantric at this point. Before that, there was like a lot of stuff I didn't know how to create, like with the Rec World that never came out. Like it was a struggle for sure. Like I didn't really know how to like get used to it. I was at a point at some point as well where I was like, I don't think I will ever make a world like that, because it was just too much input, too much like knowledge that I wasn't ready for. But for some reason, I still managed to learn a lot of that stuff. And yeah, working on the Smile Room was actually me kind of like testing things. It was more like a test of like, what can I do with Cyan Trigger, for example? How far can I go with that? And I just tested a bunch of stuff, like a lot of things I wasn't familiar with. And it just worked for some reason. It sounds weird, but like all of the stuff I wanted to do just worked for some reason. And that's something I'm always like amazed by, like, because when I think about it, like I had zero knowledge about it. Like I just click buttons and I hope that works, but it did. And yeah, but there were for sure like issues with that as well, like where at certain points I thought like I cannot do it, and there's like no proper way for me to learn it, especially because obviously it's not my main job. I don't do this as a job. It's more like a hobby on the side, and I do have like other things outside of VRChat as well that I need to obviously do. So the time to learn things like that was very small, though. But I somehow managed to do it and overcame those things. Like it wasn't easy, but I did it somehow. And yeah, now with like the changes on VRChat, I assume already mentioned like Sign Trigger, for example, that being like the tool. I think the creator himself said that that there won't be any support anymore for it any longer. So what I can say for chapter 2, for example, it's not using any sign trigger. I started to learn Udon like myself, like writing scripts. At first, I had a lot of help from friends that like were aware of how scripting outside of sign trigger works, like just normal scripting with Udon Sharp. And I pretty much just like try to like figure out how those scripts from my friends work, and I just like I did back then with Sign Trigger. I just tried things, and I pretty much learned a lot by that, like just by looking at how things work. One thing I do is I take a script that is already made and I put it all like I just take it apart to try to like see how each like part of the script is like working with each other, and then I yeah, pretty much like try to like put it together again myself, see if it still works. And that's how I learn a lot. Like I just put things apart and then put them together and see like what's the process behind it, like what's the reason why this is that, and all of that. But yeah, like I did learn normal udon sharp now as well, so I don't have to worry about like support not being there anymore for Sign Trigger, for example. And besides that, I had like no issues so far with like any changes in VRChat. Luckily, so far so good. Yeah, we'll see what comes in the future. Who knows?
Knock on wood, right? Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, you never know, right? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, I know they're like trying to introduce they're trying to introduce like the Udon Soba or the Soba, programming language now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
it
we'll
is
see.
Scary, but yeah, I guess we'll find out at some point when it's coming. Well.
Yeah. Man, no, but it overall it's really cool. The fact that you've came so far. Since the original creation of the Smile Room. Even so, not only do you have the Smile Room, but you also do have F.E.A.R.S as well. So obviously what kind of inspired you? Well, I guess for the general listening audience, a lot of people know Smile Room, of course, but like, maybe they may not know about F.E.A.R.S. So what exactly is F.E.A.R.S?
F.E.A.R.S was an attempt to have something for Spookality because Chapter 2 took too long to get published. So pretty much like when I finished Chapter 1, I instantly started working on Chapter 2 because it was an open end. It didn't really have like a proper ending like it was supposed to have. It was supposed to have an ending, but I didn't make it in time back then for Spookality. So I just had to cut it, and I was like, okay, instead of having one big map, I'm going to put it into 2 parts. And that's how Chapter 2 came alive. And yeah, sadly, or like not sadly, but like unluckily for me, the map got big. Like it's massive. Like there's so much in Chapter 2 at this point. Like I've been working on this project for 3 years now, and it's still not done. It's still like work in progress. But yeah, like I remember like a year after working on Chapter 2, like Spookality was around the corner, and I was far from finishing that map, obviously. So I was thinking what I'm gonna do. Like maybe I can like come up with something small, like very small, and then upload it for Spookality to have something for the people that like my content or like my worlds. So I was playing a lot of games back then, like to see if I can get some inspiration, which I do. I play a lot of games to see like what can I like make and make it in like my own kind of way. Like I like to take concepts and like completely remake them in a different way, so it's original still and unique, and not a total copy of like a game. So I played a game called the Watson Scott Test, and that was pretty much like a game where you have to answer a bunch of questions, like a survey, and that's how F.E.A.R.S came alive. Like it was pretty much like the idea of having a survey for players. At the beginning, it was just people having to answer questions, but I was like, okay, there's something missing. I feel like I need to have something that actually scares people, because only answering uncomfortable questions isn't going to make it. It's not going to be scary enough. And I wanted to, like, one goal was for F.E.A.R.S to create a map that is going to like hit every single person in some kind of way in terms of fear. Because a lot of people in Chapter 1 of the Smile Room complained like, oh, it's not scary enough, and oh, like, it doesn't spook me because I'm in a group of people, like nothing is gonna scare me about that. I mean, yeah, understandable if you're in a group with 8 people and you're blasting music through the world or something. It's not gonna be scary. You're gonna have a nice time, but it's not gonna, So I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to find a way to like actually get those people as well. And I had the idea to separate people, like during certain parts of the map, and that's what I did. Every situation you had, you got separated and you were alone all by yourself, and people hated that, which is really funny. I love the fact that they actually felt uncomfortable. They were like, oh, it's not scary, and then boom, they're alone. They're like, I don't want to continue anymore, I'm scared. I'm like, oh, that's great. So I pretty much did exactly what I wanted. Exactly. I was like, F.E.A.R.S at the moment, obviously Chapter 2 is a whole different thing, but F.E.A.R.S at the moment is still my favorite project. It's short. It was pretty much like a last minute thing, but like the idea behind it and that it works like the way it was supposed to work, it just makes me so happy. Like it's actually scary for people, and yeah, it just, I don't know, like it was something I was very proud of. Like to have something that actually terrifies people. Like I had so many people that just quit the map because they were like too afraid, too scared to continue. Like so many times I looked into some streams on Twitch and I saw people like in some part of the map and they're like, I don't want to continue. I'm just gonna quit. And they quit. I was like, oh, okay. And I don't even feel like bad or sad about it. I'm like, actually, I see this as a win because I pretty much reached the goal. Like people get scared. Sure, it's not nice that people like completely leave because there's still so much to explore. But at the same time, that was the goal of my map, to scare people. And if that works, then I see this as a win. So yeah, it was a very interesting project. Well,
it definitely, and I've noticed that trend a lot more. You know, it's really cool to see. You know, that is the effect, right? You know, because that's the goal. But I am seeing that a lot more with some of these more recent maps. It's not public yet, but for those that are the podcast listeners and watchers, you know, I did have official say on the podcast. Where he was, you know, talking about his new upcoming map, Mind of Official Seon, and he actually had me do a streamed beta test of the world. It was phenomenal. It was so much fun. But in the actual map, I could talk about this. This was streamed live. But you know, there was a part specifically where it went into the emotions like anger, you know, depression, so on and so forth, and you had to go through doors to go through these emotions. And the depression door specifically, because you could only have a certain amount of players in. I think it was like only like a handful. For the stream, I had myself and 2 other people with me for the beta test, and one of them had to leave early, but it was me and one other person that did pretty much the rest of the map by ourselves. And we got to this depression door, and there's a whole trigger warning like, hey, if you're not, you know, you can skip this part. It does go into a lot of themes with, you know, self-harm, depressions, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And well, we were full in. We were like, we waited so long to play this, like we're gonna do it, and it completely separated us. And experiencing that, like, granted, it had its rough, spooky moments during the actual, you know, map. But that part specifically hit so much harder because you're by yourself. You're experiencing this with nothing to bounce off of, you know, to combat the emotions that you're fighting at that point. So it's definitely a crazy thing, and it hits different. So, you know, it is kind of cool to see more and more maps using that, especially horror maps, because that's kind of the whole bit. You want people to get scared, like you had said.
Exactly.
You know, so I guess kind of one of the questions I want to ask you, you know, because obviously, you know, with F.E.A.R.S, you know, it was a smaller project for Spookality, you know, and obviously if it's not already started, because I don't remember exactly when the dates start, but do you have anything in mind for this year's Spookality? With the analog horror theme.
So I plan to have chapter 2 ready by now. Actually, that was the idea. Like I wanted to have it done for Spookality this year. But again, like I had to wait for a few things to get done, like voice acting, art, and all of that kind of stuff. I sadly have no control over that. But those things were a little bit late this year, so I had to sadly delay it again personally. There's no official release date yet, by the way. So that's a good thing because I don't want to disappoint people again with like saying, "Oh, it's coming out on that day," because that happened already and it was not very nice. So there is no official release date yet, and I did not plan to have anything this year for Spookality. That's all I can say. Like I wanted to have chapter 2 ready, but sadly, due to like certain events, it's gonna have to like wait a little bit longer. It's around the corner though. Like, that's something I can say. It's not that far away. The map is far, like it's not far from being finished. It's so close. So people don't have to wait that much longer anymore. It's gonna be soon. But yeah, no, Spocality, it's sadly not gonna be a thing for that.
Fair. I mean, yeah, that's fair. Like we had said, it does take a long time to get this thing, especially with you doing it by yourself this time around. Obviously there's voice actors and other people that are assisting a little bit, but it takes a timely process, especially for
It does,
experiences, like game experiences and horror experiences as well. Not to mention all the testing side of it too. Making sure everything works, all the bug testing, and yeah, it takes a process. But obviously, with all that in mind, because obviously, with chapter 2, you do have the demo out for chapter 2. So I guess one of the questions I wanted to ask, what has been like the overall like response for chapter 2? Because obviously, with it being the first 15 minutes of the experience, what are some of the things you've learned, like putting out a demo? Like what are some of the major key points?
All right, so there's one thing I learned: don't separate people out of the blue without giving them a slight chance of realizing that it's actually on purpose. That's something I learned, and I'm not gonna do that again. People got very like confused and thought it was a bug the entire time and left the world, which is very interesting. So that's not gonna be a thing. But like the overall response to the map was very positive. People loved it. Like everything they like saw, and they were amazed. Like they pretty much said it's a cinematic horror experience, just what it was supposed to be. Like I wanted it to be cinematic this time. Like it's supposed to feel like a movie. You're supposed to feel like you're inside a movie. It has a nice story. It has gameplay elements as well, obviously, and it looks nice. Like that was like one of the main things I wanted to have in chapter 2. I wanted it to look good for VRChat. Like not some room that it looks just like a, I don't know, block, and that's pretty much it. I wanted it to actually look pretty decent to what we've seen so far in VRChat. Like for every map that I created, I tried to like set a new standard, not just for myself, but also maybe for other VRChat worlds. Like chapter 1, for example, was atmosphere. People said they loved the atmosphere; it was great. Fears, it was scaring people. Like my goal was to like create something that is like apparently the scariest thing in VRChat at the moment. Not sure if that's true or not, but people say that, so I'm just gonna take it for that. And then for chapter 2, I was like, I want to make it detailed. I want to have a nice atmosphere, and I want it to look good, but I also feel good to play. So when people played it and they said like, "Oh, it's like a movie," like feels like I'm in a movie, it was pretty much what I wanted. So the response so far and the feedback has been amazing. Like I couldn't be happier. I'm so excited to show people like the final product, because from what you've seen in the demo, like everything you've seen in the demo got like redone kind of. Like everything in the demo I changed already. It's to make it even better, and it's so much bigger than the demo. I'm super excited to show that part at some point. Like it's gonna be great. But yeah, like the feedback has been great. Like I'm super happy with it. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. It's definitely good to know, that that's the overall consensus, right? Because obviously, with Smile Room Chapter 2, it's big shoes to fill. And, to hear that that's kind of the overall consensus, from at least what you've heard, that's really cool. And not to mention, with your creations, like, we're excited to have you at Project HorrorCon this year, which, as this episode's being aired, will be 2 weeks away. That's October 24th through 26th, by the way, if you're not familiar. But but it's definitely cool, to have you and all the horror creators come together. It's such a cool thing to showcase that side of VRChat, because it's a very small side of VRChat, and a lot of people love horror. A lot of people, for some reason, love getting scared on a constant basis. I like horror to an
Understandable.
extent. You know, I can enjoy some horror games. You know, I've played Smile Room. I've played a lot of, you know, different ones over the years. Like I played PT. I've played, you know, oh god, the list could go on and on at this point.
There's so many.
You know, I played It Lives. I played The Devouring. The list goes on and on. Realistically, at the end of the day, but you know, it's definitely a crazy thing, right? You know, and not to mention, you know, there's all sorts of different types of horror genres. You know, when it comes to that. Hello, everyone. Real quick, just want to pause the episode right here. I want to thank you all so much for watching this far. If you're interested in, you know, maybe watching some of my other content or enjoy what you're watching so far, feel free to hit that subscribe button. It does help me out a lot. And of course, if you're interested in some of the other events and, you know, collaboration projects that I work with, feel free to join the VRChat group at noved.6608. We do put stuff on the calendar for future uploads as well as many other events that we take part of. I will say, upcoming October 11th and 12th, I'm proud to announce that we are officially going to have the 2-year anniversary of the Noved Squad, where we'll have 2 whole days worth of performers for a charity event, all for the International Association for Suicide Prevention. But if you're interested in that, make sure to join the VRChat group and join the Discord by looking at the link tree or in the VRChat group itself. But let's get back into the episode. Woo! So I guess out of curiosity, because you're so involved with like making horror, you know, because obviously you've been around, you know, like you said, since the pandemic times. So in your personal opinion, what are some of your like favorite horror maps when it comes to like VRChat?
Oh, that's a very good question. I always think about that. Like I get that question actually a lot. And I never know what to say. There's so many good ones. Like I could name so many right now that are my favorites. One of them is Thrill Seeker, for example. Some people might heard of it. It's also like a story-based map. Like you are in a prison and you have to like explore and like uncover the story and stuff. It is great. It's super fun. That one, for example. Then It Lives, you said that yourself. I like the like events that happened around you. It was so intense. Like everything happened so fast. Your brain was like not able to like even like think about what happened because everything just happened so fast. We have the classics obviously as well, like Devouring, like the Huggy Stension series, all of that stuff. They're like great maps. There's so many. Like it's hard to name like my favorites because I like them all. Like every map has its own personal special thing, and that's why I love about VRChat so much, because every like thing, like every world you see has like some kind of personality. It's from someone that actually put passion and love into a project, and not just the company that like was like trying to make money with it. You know, like nowadays sadly the industry is like so big in terms of horror, like outside of VR as well, that a lot of people just see like it as a like easy money source. But having actually a project or a world out there for VRChat, for example, that is made with passion, that is so nice. I love it. It makes me so happy that people can like show their creativity and like their passion for horror and all of that stuff.
No, 100%. It's definitely a crazy thing. Yeah, I mean, there's so many, and over the years, it's constantly gotten better and better as time has progressed.
Oh yeah,
you know, many different features and functionalities coming out over the years. You know, like obviously, not to down the ones back in the day, but it was a different era of VRChat, and
that is true.
It was very hard to create some of those experiences compared to what it is now. The whole sign trigger thing helping a lot of people, going from SDK 2 into SDK 3, and so much has happened with this platform. I methis platform's been around for, roughly 11 years now, and it's crazy to think about. This game's been around for so long, but people are still able to, adapt and improve over time. And that's crazy. It's crazy to think about.
That is very true, yeah. It
Um,
is. It's amazing.
yeah. So obviously, with kind of to go more into your side of things when it comes to horror and stuff. Because obviously, we talked about some of your favorite, VRChat maps and worlds when it comes to horror. So with yourself and how much you love horror, what are some of like the biggest inspirations for you when it comes to horror? Like what kind of drives you, or what not drives you, what kind of inspires you when it comes like horror? Like what's some of your favorite like horror genre, realistically anything? Like what makes the horror genre so exciting for you, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I just like the feeling of like being constantly on edge. Like you like always like scared that something happens, and the feeling that like the adrenaline, like that's something I love. And also like horror gets people together for some reason. Like the fact that like there is something out there that might kill you. Like it just brings people together for some reason, and that's something I really like. And there's so many like things that inspire me to like just do this kind of stuff. Playing games all the time, like horror games. I love it. I don't know why. Like I've been a huge horror fan from the beginning. Like when I was a child, I used to like secretly watch horror movies behind my parents' back. And I just like I don't know. I started to love this genre for some reason. Like it could have been any genre, but for some reason horror was that genre that like I don't know. It just amazed me. I think it's like the art behind it, the fact that like it's so creative. Like sure there are like let's say action games or stuff like that, but that kind of stuff is always pretty much the same. Like there's always the same kind of like story. It's a bit different always, but um the core is always the same. And for horror, it can be anything. Like anything can be turned into something scary. And there are so many creative like things nowadays about horror. Like it can be psychological horror, it can be a slasher, it can be anything. Found footage, amazing genre. I love found footage horror as well. There's so much, and that's probably what amazes me and like gets me inspired to like do something for that community as well.
No, absolutely. Well, actually, it's funny we talk about these genres because it kind of clicked in my head a bunch of the genres that are more popularized. So obviously, some of the biggest VR chat horror things that are out right now. You have the whole like Five Nights at Freddy's, genre itself. I know another one. You have like Terrors of Nowhere. You have
Mm-hmm.
Slash Co. So I guess from a person who is a horror fanatic, because obviously there's differences between horror games and horror experiences. And with some of the ones we mentioned, those I would consider those more horror experiences, right? It
Mm-hmm.
versus games. So I would say, out of curiosity, do you have any like horror games that you prefer when it comes to, like, VR chat? Because there's quite a few of them out there. Um,
Oh, it's really hard to like say what's the game and what isn't. Like the transition between them is so like small. Like it's really hard to say what is a game or not. I can easily tell you my worlds, for example, those are experiences. They're not games. Like it's a story. It's like a thing you just go through.
I would
Um,
say games are more of like you're trying to let's take Terrors of Nowhere and Slashco for example. Like you're trying to earn currency to get
yeah.
items and stuff. Those would be considered games.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I know there's now I'm thinking about it, there's not too many games out there. It's very limited, but
Really?
I kind of backed myself into a corner with this question. But I guess that is a weird way of phrasing it, I guess. But I mean, it's not wrong though. They're games versus experiences. So I mean, do you have experience like playing the game side when it comes to horror? Like, have you touched any of them?
um, I tried, but I think I just never really had the time to fully get into it. Like I tried Slash Go, I tried Terrors of Nowhere, all of those kind of worlds. But I never really fully got into it. I know some friends are addicted to it. Like they love it. They say it's the greatest ever. I can understand it. It looks fun every time I watch it. It looks really fun. But But from my side, like I cannot really play these things that much because for the most part, I'm working on my own stuff, sadly, at the moment. Like I don't really have the time to explore worlds as much as I used to. But from what I've seen, like, it looks really fun. Like I think those are like probably the best ones out there. And yeah, I haven't really managed to like play them much well, sadly. But I'm definitely planning on doing that once I'm done with Chapter 2.
Oh no,
Planning
for
getting
sure.
back into VR fully.
No, absolutely. Hey, maybe Horicon will kind of make you want to try like a lot of this stuff out.
Hopefully. I'm excited for it.
But yeah, I would say it's definitely crazy. All the different stuff that comes out of VR and VR horror. Not to mention, there's things outside of VRChat too that it's a bunch of different horror stuff. It's crazy. Some of the things that people make are absolutely insane when it comes to like virtual reality and horror. Some of which even I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'll take a step back. Like, it's nuts, man. So I guess one of the questions I wanted to ask, kind of go back into the topic of the Chapter 2. So obviously, when it comes to the storyline, so I guess maybe for those that are somewhat not familiar with, the story of the Smile Room, like catch us up to speed on like we'll say up until the demo, just to because you'll have to play the Chapter 2 when it comes out. I'm not gonna.
There's a lot of story in Chapter 2 as well. There's so much.
Whatever you're willing to share on Chapter 2, you can. But if you want to keep it a secret, totally understandable.
I can probably say a little bit here and there. Exactly, yeah. So obviously you need to play Chapter 1 first before you play Chapter 2, because they're both connected. The story is one story, pretty much just cut in the middle. In Chapter 1, you get a call from a friend that went missing when you were a child. Her name is Anna Whitson, and for some reason you just like trust her and meet her in like a abandoned mall called the Starlight Plaza. But when you arrive there and like you're like in the basement of it, you find something else. Not Anna. You find the Smile Room, and for whatever reason, I don't know why, the player decides to enter this room, and in that moment you're pretty much trapped in some kind of different universe. Like it just plays with your mind. Like it's like doing things around you. Everything around you changes. It's like you're like inside a creature that can like shapeshift. The Smile Room is pretty much a shapeshifting creature. It is very inspired, or like very much. Yeah, I took a lot of inspiration from Pennywise, the clown from It. When I like came up with the story, I was watching the movies back then, so I kind of like just took that and like I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go with that, something similar. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Like you're in this area, like in this basement, but everything switches around you and changes to locations that you are familiar with, like things you have seen in the past, for example. Like at some point you will end up in an apartment, and it's the apartment of your parents that you lived with back then. And like it's bringing you through a lot of like things that either traumatized you as a child or still traumatize you nowadays. It's pretty much feeding on your fear, or like the things you're scared of. It's playing with that. It's using that to get more fear from you. You also meet Funny, the happiest clown on earth, in this location. I don't really know what to call it at the moment because it gets explained in Chapter 2. I don't want to spoil anything yet. But in this Smile Room, you will meet a bunch of characters, like a bunch of entities that you've either seen already in the past, or things that traumatized you. And like I said, it's trying to use that against you to get something from you. Fear, pretty much. At some point later on, after you got introduced to Funny, you also see Anna for the first time properly standing behind you. And that's where the map stops. Like it's an open end, it's like a cliffhanger. You don't know what happens next. I can tell everyone we're pretty much continuing from that point on with chapter 2. Like, sure, there is the part from the demo where you play as little Anna before she went missing, but we continue the story from Jesse, the main character from chapter 1. So the demo is pretty much like a rewind on what happened to the girl, so people know, okay, that's how she went missing. Because a lot of people didn't ever like understood like why did she went missing, what happened. Now they know. That's pretty much like what happened to her, and they also see the clown in the demo that like gets somehow pulled into the smile room. At first he seems normal, like a normal employee at the mall, but then he gets like pulled in and comes out all deformed and weird. You could pretty much say the smile room changed him. That's all I can say at the moment. Like there's not much I can say because the story is like, it's very complex and it's very like everything in chapter 2 will have a meaning. Every single object you see has some kind of meaning to the story. That's something I'm very proud of, because a lot of maps use, let's say, there are a lot of horror maps that use mannequins, right? Mine included. I have that too. But in every map, those are just used to scare the player, and they don't really have a purpose most of the time. Not always, but most of the time, there is no lore or reason why they are there. And that's something I always don't understand. I don't like it. I think it's confusing. Like let's say you play a paranormal game, like you play like a game about a missing, or like not a missing, but like a cursed child. Why is there a mannequin like following you now, like whenever you look away? I don't understand that. It's confusing me. So in chapter 2, everything, even if there's a mannequin, there is a reason why it's there. Like it's somehow connected to the story. It's somehow connected to either the past or what happens in the now, like the present time right now. Everything has a meaning, and that's something I'm super proud of. But yeah, there's sadly not much I can share about the story because it's a lot, and I think people need to just see it themselves. Like that's all I can say. Yeah.
No, totally fair. And I know a lot of people are super excited for it. So yeah, if you're watching this episode expecting a teaser of what's going to happen, sorry, you got to wait till it's released. But no, that's what's up, man. Okay. So this is more of a funny question more than anything, because I deal with a very similar thing. So I wanted your personal take. Because obviously your name is XCirrex. So you probably already know where I'm going with. Yeah. So because my name gets said wrong all the time too. So out of curiosity, how many times have people called you Crispy instead of Cripsy?
Every time I meet someone new, they call me Crispy. That's something I can tell you. Like I haven't had probably like one person out of like 100 that I meet actually call me Cripsy the first time they see me. Everyone else instantly Crispy. Yeah, but it's like it happens way too often, like all the time, even on Twitter. I like to go on Twitter and like or X nowadays. I don't know what people call it. It's a hit or miss.
I still call it Twitter.
I go onto that. Yeah, okay. Let's go with Twitter. I like that too. I prefer that. I go on Twitter and I look for like tweets about my maps, for example, because I'm curious what people do with it, and like if there are people like playing it, like sharing gameplay videos. I just like seeing people like go through my maps and just enjoying their time in there. It makes me super happy. It inspires me to like see people enjoy my work. I always try to like and reply and retweet and all that stuff whenever I see something. And like almost every time they like have like in the description like the smile room by It's Crispy. I'm like, oh. Like there's even been times where I was in public VRChat lobbies. Doesn't happen often anymore because I got very antisocial. But there were times where I was in like a public lobby and people came up to me totally nervous. I'm like scared as hell. They're like, "Oh my god, I'm your biggest fan." I'm already super overwhelmed, and then they drop like, "Oh my god, do you see that? It's Crispy." I'm like, you say you're my biggest fan, but you still don't know my name. Like, how is that even possible? Like, if I'm a fan of someone, right? Like, I would know their name, right? Like, I don't know. I always have to like smile when I like hear that. I'm like, okay, and you know what? I forgive you. You like my world, and that's something I'm very like proud of and happy of. Like, it makes me super happy. But yeah, no, people do say crispy so many times. I got invited to like some kind of like collab a few weeks ago, and this person was also like, "Oh my god, I like love your stuff and stuff, like all of that." And then they like made an announcement somewhere, and they said like, "Ah, doing this collab with ItsCripsy." I was like, you do collab with me, but you still get my name wrong. Like, I'm not hating on those people. I can understand. Like, I would probably read through it as well and like instantly say it's crispy, because a lot of people, I noticed that a lot of people in VRChat either don't read at all or they just like rush over it. That's something that I think everyone in VRChat that plays VRChat properly can agree to that. People don't read for some reason. I don't know why. So yeah, it happens so often. But at this point, I'm just smiling. Like, I'm just, you know. At first, it actually kind of like bothered me because I was like, I chose that name for a reason. I didn't want to be crispy. Like, that's not a type or anything. I did that on purpose to have it unique and special. Like, I was like, you know what? Instead of crispy, I'm just gonna be cripsy because that's different. And yeah, a lot of people just came out and were like, you're crispy. I'm like, all right, fine. But yeah, at this point, I don't know, I'm used to that.
No, fair. I mean,
you asked the question.
Yeah, no, it's I thought I'd ask because like the amount of times like people will type it correctly, at least on my end.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had people like, you know, obviously it's Noved Notes. You know, I've had
Mm-hmm.
people say Noved or like all sorts of different variants. I'm like, it's not that hard, y'all. Like, it's gotten to the point where like if I hear some type of variant, I'll assume that they're talking about me. I'm just like, what?
Yeah, like, yeah.
So
I understand that.
So,
Feel that.
hey, at least I can say I said it correctly. Let's go. High five myself.
You did. Good job.
But to be fair, I have another friend who actually is crispy, so you know I can determine the difference. So maybe I have a little bit of benefit on that.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I thought it was funny. Because I so you guys can't see it on the video side, but in the little pronoun section of Cripsy, it says in all caps, not crispy. I'm like,
Yeah.
I was like, interesting. Like,
I was hoping it would help, but it still doesn't do much. Trust
That
me,
still
like
doesn't
people
help?
still call
That
me crispy.
sucks.
No. That's what I mean. They don't read. They don't read the pronouns. They don't. No. Like, everybody just instantly says crispy. All right, yeah.
Oh man.
But it is what it is. Oh, that's so
fair.
funny. Oh my goodness.
So I guess you know, because we are running a little bit out of time, but I do want to ask
Totally
another question for you.
Mhm.
So obviously, you know, with you creating worlds for so many years, you know, definitely having the experience under your belt, you know, what's a couple one or a couple pieces of advice that you can give for somebody who's maybe wanting to do like, you know, VR horror experiences or, you know, just VR worlds in general?
Oh, don't give up. First thing ever. Like, a lot of people try to get into something and they instantly, like, after a few fails, they give up. Unity is gonna break a lot. Like, it's gonna fail, it's gonna corrupt. Make backups. 100% make backups. At least once a week. Best advice I can give, because I had so many projects that just corrupted for no reason. And then try to be original. Like, try to like create something unique. Try to be like, put yourself, like your own personality into it some kind of way. Like, don't just copy something from like another game or creator because you're like, okay, I think I can do the same thing. I see that sadly a lot. Like, people, like even normal game developers just copying stuff. It's very sad because there's no soul in these things. You create something from scratch by yourself. There's so much more love and passion and personality in it than if you just buy assets somewhere and like throw them in. There are so many maps that I saw like use the Resident Evil 7 house, for example. I'm like, there's nothing original about it. Like, sure, it's scary, but it doesn't work. Like it's you know where it's from, and I don't know. Like it just doesn't feel the same. So every time I see a world that looks completely unique and different from all the other like things that we've seen so far, I'm already like so much more interested in it, and I love it so much more than any like kind of copy worlds. So yeah, try to be original as much as you can. It's the best advice I can give. And don't give up, like I said. Like that is also very important. I failed so often, and I'm still here. I'm stubborn. I just don't know what to say. But it seems like people are happy that I didn't give up. There have been so many moments, but life can be hard. Unity can be hard. But at the end of the day, if you keep, working on it and believe in yourself, it's gonna work out 100%. Yeah, that's all I can say. I don't know what else to say.
No, fair. I mean, it's still a solid piece of advice. And to be fair, I do agree with you in a certain aspect to that. The whole reusing the same things over and over again. I do agree with you. Granted, and maybe I'm a little bit biased here because so there's ways to go about doing that versus just using it and not changing anything.
Exactly.
You if you're gonna use something, do it in a way that hasn't been done, or do it in a way that's not the original intent of purpose.
That's what I did in chapter 1. Actually, I did get assets from like doors and stuff. I changed them. I put different textures on them. I like changed the way they like looked in game. Yeah. I gave them gameplay mechanics. There was, for example, a shelf. You couldn't do anything with the shelf normally. I gave them like gameplay options so you can open it and stuff. That was not part of the object itself. But I gave it life. That's something that makes it so much better. Like, yeah, you can obviously like sometimes there are things you don't either like you either don't have the time to create something like that, or like there's certain knowledge missing. Totally fine, happens to me as well. In those cases, you can get assets somewhere else or get someone else to make it for you. But it is still always better to create your own stuff from scratch, 100%. But yeah, I agree with you. Like it is. There is a certain extent you can do these things, and then there's also just straight up copying stuff. Best example: most Unreal Engine horror games nowadays, outside of VRChat, use the same house. You will see the same wooden panel on the side, same wallpaper, always the same. Just different layout because they're modular. But that's pretty much it. It's always the same. Not scary. It's just copy and paste. That's sad.
Did you mean Unity or did you mean Unreal? Because VRChat doesn't run Unreal.
No, that's what I mean. Like outside of VRChat, like Unreal games, for example, they have like Unreal Engine has like a store where you can buy like prefabs, pre-made assets and stuff. And there's this one specific house that every Unreal Engine developer uses for their horror game. I don't know why. It just always there. Like almost every single horror game that comes out nowadays has the same house. I'm like, give me something new. So yeah, like that's what I mean. Like being original makes things so much better than just taking something that already exists. Yeah.
No, fair. No, that's what's up. Well, Cripsy, it's so great to have you on. This was a blast to kind of, learn a little bit more about you and, what kind of inspired you. I mean, this was a blast. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I had an amazing time. It was super fun.
I'm glad. Before we go, I do want to give you a spot to, let you tell the people where they can find you, any links you want on screen in the description, stuff like that. But yeah, tell them where they can find you.
Well, I'm mostly active on my Discord. That's where I update everyone in terms of development with my maps. You can also find me on Twitter. Obviously, I post there sometimes as well. For the people that want to support me financially, there's Patreon. Or either the VRChat group itself. Like, you can also support me within VRChat as well by joining the group, or even like, I don't know what it's called, like paying credits. I don't remember. I don't use that
Creator
system.
economy.
But exactly that one. I'm so out of it. I'm sorry. But yeah, like that's the way you can support me and like I don't know, stay up to date with me. I don't post updates as much as people maybe expect, but that's because I'm just so deep into working on it actually than just posting every week saying like, okay, that's how much I made. I just work. I work so much at this point on the chapter 2. It's crazy. Like I come home from my actual job and I work on my stuff and then I go to my actual job. There's like nothing in between at this point. It's just work. But it's fun. I love it. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, to be honest. So yeah.
Felt that. Yeah, no, I felt that on so many levels. But oh man. But yeah, no, I mean that's what's up. And obviously all the links will be down into the description. You'll just send them to me. But yeah, so make sure to make sure to go check out all the links. Make sure to go check out Smile Room, chapter 1, 2, Fears, all that type of stuff. I believe you do have a VRC group as well. You mentioned which VRC group is it? Is it the CC group or is it
the CNC group? Yeah. It's a bit confusing. People don't really know what it stands for. It was supposed to be Cripsy in color back then because that was the friend that helped me. We started it together, so it was a two-hour thing. He retired from VRChat now, so it's just me. But I kept the name. I didn't see a reason to change it. So yeah, it's a CNC group if you want to join. So yeah. Want to welcome to stop by and say hello.
Yeah, so if you're interested, the short code for it is CCG.2127. So make sure to go check it out. I mean, they've got a lot of different amazing projects on there, some of which we've talked about, plus a few others. So if you're not familiar, go check it out. Like I said, all the links will be down in the description. But yeah, ladies, gentlemen, everybody inside and outside the ballpark, that has been it for episode 84. Yes, of the Noved Notes podcast. I want to thank you all so much for watching, listening, depending on what platform you're on. Comment down below, what is your favorite horror experience inside of VRChat? What's your favorite horror experience inside of VRChat? I think we may or may not have already had this question, but I'm going to re-ask it again because we're back in spooky month. And there's been some new horror experiences out. Like Spookouty last year just happened. And by the time this episode airs, there'll probably be some more horror maps that are already out. So comment down below your favorite horror experience inside of VRChat. And of course, I mean, there's a lot already coming out. Like I know there's a few Spookouty stuff like already in progress that I'm may or may not be voice acting. You'll have to wait and see. So make sure to go check out some of the Spookouty maps. You may or may not see my name somewhere in the credits. But if y'all enjoyed this episode or are coming back to check out some of the other episodes, why not hit that subscribe button? You're already coming back anyway, or follow, like button, all that type of stuff, depending on what platform you're on. There's 9 different platforms on this, by the way. But yeah, go smack like, follow, subscribe, depending on the platform. But yeah, I think that's everything. You think after like 84 episodes, you'd think I would have my outro to a T, but I really don't. But I want to thank you all one last time for watching, listening, depending on what platform you're on. And of course, actually, as this episode's airing, if you're not already there, Squad Forever Fest is happening October 11th and 12th. So, giant charity event for the International Association for Suicide Prevention. So if you're not part of the VRChat group, make sure to join the Noved Squad at noved.6608. There's already videos out on my YouTube as well as many others promoting the event. But yeah, it's also on my Twitch. Go check that out as well. But with that, I'm going to stop doing my own plugs and close this episode out. But with that, thank you guys once again for watching, listening, depending on what platform you're on. And I will see you in the next episode and at HorrorCon. Take care and peace. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Noved Squad.